Good morning students. Today in this lecture we will talk about those important components of religion which are universal. Either by one way or the other they are present in all the religions all over the world. These are sacred, myth and rituals. As the concept of sacredness is closely associated to the concept of religion, it would not be inappropriate to say that religion is almost having the similarity of sacredness imbibed in it. Similarly, rituals are part and parcel of all the religions by one way or the other. And then comes the concept of myth, which is again hold a very important place in sociology. Sociology of religion, when talks about sociologically this concept of religion, then these components plays a vital role. What is their significance? What is their meaning? How they hold importance? We will discuss everything related to these concepts in this lecture. So, let us talk about sacred, myth and rituals. In order to clearly understand religion and religious behavior, it is very important to understand their basic concepts, because these concepts are widely implemented in following religious practices and methods. Religious behavior is very important for us sociologists because the central element of religion are so invisible and vague that it is almost impossible to understand its reality on any empirical basis. The relationship between society and religion is underlined through religious practices, and some common elements which are found in all the religions all over the world include specific elements of each religion which affects the behavior of a person. Keeping all these dimensions in mind, we will talk about the basic concepts of religion which include sacred, rituals and myth. The concept of sacredness is associated with religion, and myth and rituals also hold very important place in this concept of religion, as they are important elements of religion. Therefore, sociologically it is very important to understand their significance. First we talk about the concept of sacred, which was very importantly highlighted by French sociologist Émile Durkheim. He believed that religion was essential to preserve social stability and order in society. He focused on the social attributes of religion, and according to Durkheim, religion is not merely a question of personal belief but also a social phenomena that unites individuals and upholds the moral standards that are foundation of any society. He believed that religion is essential to preserve social stability and order in the society, which is possible only when the citizens have the belief faith on their religions, and therefore he considered religion as a social phenomena. Religious beliefs, as studied by Durkheim, presuppose the classification of all things into two major categories. The categories defined by him were sacred and profane. There is an opposition between these two spheres which has to be carefully regulated through rites and ceremonies. The sacred is that which is set apart, considerably holy. The sacred is usually in a higher position, valued more than profane things, and its identity and power are protected by social rules. This is the reason that the concept of sacredness is closely associated to religion. Therefore, the things which are associated to it are considered as sacred, pure and holy. All the components in the religion are classified by Durkheim into these two categories of sacred and profane. The profane, on the other hand, refers to the mundane, ordinary aspects of day-to-day existence. The sacred and profane are kept apart, says Durkheim, because they are Heterogeneous means they both are different. Antagonistic, as they both are having conflicting nature between each other, and isolated, as they both are separated from one another. Rights therefore exist to meditate between these two worlds by the concept of sacredness. Beliefs and rights, which are important components of religion, defined by Durkheim, to unite together in order to form the religion, means as per Durkheim, religion can be formed when there is a system of belief and rites and rituals associated to it. Beliefs are the moral ideas, the rules, the teachings and the myths. They are collective representations which exist outside of the individual and yet integrate the individual into the religious system. It is very common phenomena which we observe in our day to day life also, that the rules, the moral conducts which are available in the society in the form of religion is outside of an individual. Means an individual in himself or herself do not hold those things, but they serve as a form of control over individual outside of his physical appearance and help in the integration of the personality. Through belief, human beings understand the sacred and their relationship to it, and they live their lives accordingly. Basic arguments of Durkheim highlights that sacred and profane dichotomy is at the center of religion, particularly totemism. From profane's attitude towards the sacred emerge the fundamental categories of thought like time, member and class. Religion help human being to understand the world and to adapt the crisis of life. And religion and God are creations of society. When society worships God, it worships itself and in the process becomes a single moral community. Thus, the sacred profane dichotomy gives rise to the fundamental categories of thoughts, and moreover, due to the rules and regulations to be followed before the profane can approach the sacred, and society becomes a moral community. In this way, this was the contribution of Durkheim towards the religion, towards the sociology of religion by his concept of sacred. And in this way also the concept of sacredness is associated to religion, which forms a sort of a moral collaboration among the people in the society and proves helpful in the formation of a moral community. Next, we will talk about rituals. Very commonly in the day to day life, we see that many people perform one or the other activity regularly, and in the layman language we call that activity as a ritual. Any activity which is performed by any person in a day to day regular manner, gradually that becomes the part of their personal or individual life, and the regularity of that practice becomes ritual. But in the concept of religion also, and sociology of religion also talks about the importance of rituals. Generally, the mass of culture related behavior that are performed on traditionally approved occasions are called rituals. It is symbolic, it is a symbolic behavior that is repeated again and again on certain occasions. Rituals are the outward expression of certain values or belief of a group of people or individual. It is a matter of a personal belief that how you worship any supernatural power. If you worship by having any idol in front of you, that is again a perception of an individual, and if you worship any supreme power by the process of meditation, that is again personal perception. But whatsoever be the process of believing that supernatural power, the person perform the activity on a regular basis, and that regularity results in the formation of rituals. The repeated process according to the custom is called rituals, and this is the underlying factor of a ritual, that this is the repeated process according to the custom of that society. Therefore, rituals cannot be said that that particular ritual can be seen in all the societies. in all the religions, but definitely every society, every religion have their own sort of rituals. In English, it can be defined as the body of ceremonies or rites used in a place of worship. The term I am using here is not RIGHTS, it is RITES, which is related to the concept of rituals and ceremonies. Thus, rituals are formal acts related to religious or magical rituals. It is always traditional. It is coming from generation to generation. Earlier, the way where our ancestors, our forefathers, our earlier members in the family follow the practice of worshipping in the family, we follow generally, people follow the same practice in the family also. Though it is not mandatory for all the members to follow the same practice, but it is commonly seen in the households that the way our family members worship any deity, we also started following that way. Similarly, the celebration of festivals, the way how we celebrate the festivals is again traditionally or hereditarily get transferred from one generation to another, because every new generation have the avenues of learning by the celebration of these festivals in their lives. And this is the reason that in the modern scenario, the current generation feels sometimes strange that what is happening while worshipping on Karwa Chauth, spiritual power of moon. What is the relevance of stars in religion? So, these are certain things on Mas Shivratri, on Purnima. We just give a sort of training to the family members or the youngsters in the family by following these rituals in the family household activities. So, these are traditional, it is always traditional. Rituals are of many types, such as related to person's life like birth, marriage and funeral. These are also related to annual season or related to some specific events. Thus, ritual can be defined that a repeated set of actions or repeated acts, usually on the occasion of ceremonies or special rites, through which a community expresses its faith in a concrete way. It is an activity with a definite configuration, the purpose of which is to control human conditions. The ritual is performed formally. Often rituals are performed with a specific purpose. They are systematic sequences of symbolic acts that have specific meaning in the context of religious belief. For example, very commonly see phenomena is there that when we go to Gurudwaras, a specific place of worship for Sikh people, but it is open for every person whosoever want to or wish that particular religious place. So, it is believed that the head should be covered. If a male member is there, they should have a hanky or something like that covered on their head, and for females also a dupatta or something else is set specifically, and it should be said that it is very important that they should cover their head before going to that particular place. So, this is a sort of a behavior which gives training to the citizen or to the person that when you visit to any sacred place for worshipping to that deity, your head should be covered. It should be in a respectful manner where we visit and give respect to the supernatural power or deity. Rituals in pre-modern society were very long and wide, and even the smallest part of it was performed carefully so that it could get full fruit. Rituals can be performed both by an individual himself or collectively by the group, by the community, by the society members altogether. Where rituals are performed collectively, either the whole group participates or an individual performs a particular ritual and the rest of the group participates. Shamans, priests, etc. are considered experts in the performing these rituals. Common example which we can see in our society like Samuhik Vivaha or removal of Kal Sarp Dosh. These are such activities which we see in our society. Collectively people perform that ritual so that a number of people all together get assembled at a particular place, perform certain specific activities to get rid of that problem or to get full fruit solution from that problem. So, the 4 elements which are essentially required in every ritual are: first, place for the performance of that ritual. A specific geographical place is required where a person or the people of group together sit and perform that activity. So, the place is essentially required for ritual. Second, the people participating in it, whether it is an individual himself or herself or a group of people altogether associated to it. Third is the articles of worship. What are the things required to worship at that performance of ritual? Like if we talk about yagnas, then we require certain elements or the things essentially required to put in the havans and all. So, these are such elements which are associated, or such articles which are required in the performance of any ritual, and similar is the verbal and physical activities. So, the prayers, sorcery, magic and divination, these can be said as the forms of ritual. By simply prayer also we can talk about rituals, because again it is a regular practice which a person perform, but this prayer can be in a silent mode when a person talk to himself or herself to that power, or it is in the form of aarti or any other sort of practice, religious practice, which a person or a society or a group of people perform together to have a relation or communication to the Almighty Supreme Power. Now, if we talk about the main characteristics of rituals, Harry M. Johnson very clearly said about few important characteristics, that first, these are holy things, means the things involved in rituals are generally holy. Rituals are used for the purpose of attaining some kind of liberation or salvation. The purpose of ritual may not be to get pleasure, not for the purpose of enjoyment, but for the aim to achieve something very superior or very important. Since the goal is fixed, rituals are a means through which a person tries to achieve something, and rituals are performed in a very specific ways. Change in law and regulation are also accepted as per the requirement, and religious acts should not be considered as moral acts. This was the underlying feature of Johnson. Now, the different forms and types of rituals are found in every society. Man always consider himself weak because of his weakness and limited capabilities. In these moments of his weakness, he require or feel the need of the supreme power or the infinite power. And there is mention of many types of rituals prevalent in society in the literature related to mankind, like rituals relating to the religious practice of any organized religion and rituals related to the life cycle. There are many turning points and events in the life when a person enters from one stage to another. Birth is again a very important feature in the human life, but as a person enters in a new stage like marriage, definitely many things get changed in the life, not only of that person individual, but also in the life of the other individual associated to that member. And again, the last important element which we talk about is death. So, birth, marriage, death are such events, rituals are associated to them with the changing nature. Similarly, if we talk about the changing seasons like sowing, harvesting, etc., these all require, or these all are performed and associated with ritual. So, both types of ritualistic activities are classified on the basis of meaning contained in them. There are affirmative rituals which give positive vibrations to an individual in the completion of their particular task. Sin killing rituals are also there in the society which prove helpful in killing of that particular sin. It is believed that by the performance of that ritual, sin get killed. Wallace in his book like Religion and Anthropological View mentioned some other types of rituals. This classification is based on the intentions and the work of rituals. He mentioned 5 categories of rituals as technology, therapy and anti-therapy, ideology, salvation and revitalization. These are set forth, and subcategories include divination under technology, witchcraft under therapy and antitherapy, and rites of passage under ideology. Therefore, it is very important, and in the important ethnographic descriptions of various cultures given by various scholars like Tyler, Fraser, Malinowski, Durkheim and many others, they use this term to denote two separate set of activities. The first, which is related to the religious practice, and second, it is related to the life cycle, which is associated or having a set of change from one cycle to another. It is a sort of transition phases, like from birth to marriage and from marriage to death. Now, the concept which I want to talk about is the concept of myth. It is a commonly used word in a social life, but it is having some specific meaning in sociology. Myths are basically related to primitive folk lore. Myths represent the story world of the mental and physical life of primitive humans. In other words, myths are collective history, dreams and experiences of mankind. It would not be incorrect to say that these are associated with ancestors, and because of that, myths are having collective histories. They are having dreams and experiences of mankind associated to it. It forms the basis of faith, feeling and belief. The purpose of myth is to explain the beliefs, rituals and religious practices received in the form of tradition. Myths are important from the point of view of understanding the unity of mankind and the developmental journey of civilization and culture. In sociology, myth means a story whose parallel structure connects to the past with the present and also point towards the future. Means the concept of space and time is closely associated to the term myth, in the form that myths are associated and talks about the past, it deals with the present and talks about the future also. Myths in Hindi known by the different terminology. Mythak is also known, commonly known in the day to day life. These are such stories in which folk perception is attached despite having a element of supernatural associated to it. In English, this comes, the term myth comes from Greek word mythos, where it means nonsensical statement, spoken word or oral narrative. Scholars belonging to different disciplines have different views regarding the interpretation and analysis of myth. Sociologists accepted the need for protection and operation of social system as the reason behind the creation of myth, because as time moves, it is commonly seen that new things or new elements get entered in the society, but every element is not having a long lasting impact on the society. Those who are having significance in the social life definitely have a long way to proceed in the human life, otherwise things get distinct from even from human life. So, this is myth which is responsible for maintaining or for the need of protection and operation of social system. This is the reason behind the creation of myth. While psychoanalyst accepts that myth as the origin of psyche of the group. This is because of the psychology of the group that they believe, psychoanalysts believe that there is the existence of myth. Anthropologists accept myth as a purely mental formative function. In this way, whether it is anthropologist, sociologist or a psychoanalyst, they all accept in their own arena the meaning and the importance and the significance of myth. Religious or sacred stories, the contents of which depict the origin or creation of a natural, metaphysical or cultural phenomena, is defined as myth. Myths are highly symbolic narrative of a cultural or subcultural describing a supernatural or fantastic event. This word is used in then two senses. First, a very symbolic description of an extraordinary or supernatural event in a culture or subculture. The story which is associated to that supernatural supreme power or culture is said as myth. And second, literary form of a social or religious symbol, a story in which supernatural powers are told and how the world was created is also told, is said as myth. And third is, myths have been very prevalent and popular in every religion because myths are a type of belief which are often associated with the events. So, in the social life very commonly we see this phenomena of myth is existing. Even the age of this time means this is the age of space, science, technology, information, but still you cannot ignore the existence and the significance of the concept of myth in the sociological of religion. Myths have been studied as a source of broken chain of oral history. It is a very important dimension to remember that we are having in India specifically and in the other part of the world also, the religions also, we are having the tradition of a oral history, and this history is having a chain in the form of myth as a source of core values of a society and as a social character to know about their universe. So, some of the characteristics of the accepted myth as an expression of belief of the primitive age are: first, they are generally narratives, therefore, they are commonly available. They are associated with the folk belief and faith. The role of logic is secondary in these. This is the reason that myths are treated as a secondary source, because we cannot find the source of logic sometimes in it, therefore, people do not take it or treat it as a logical belief or a source. Despite the excess of imagination in the creation of myth, the social reality of its time remains. The stories described in myth affect human life even if they are supernatural. Myths are dynamic and the development of myth is a complex and a continuous process. In the 19th century, anthropologists have tried to find out the origin of myth. So, Malinowski analyzed the role of myth in explaining the fabric of society. He defined myths which provide legitimacy to social system. Hadley talked about, he was also again a famous scholar who talked about beliefs and myths. He said that myths represent the answers that the imaginations of man has given from time to time to the problem of the origin of things. And Claude Lévi-Strauss talked about myth in a very different manner. Strauss considered them as a system of science from point of view of structural linguistics. He expressed his disagreement with the acceptance of myth as legitimizing an explanatory institution of social system. So, in this way different scholars give their different explanation to the meaning of the concept of myth, but whatsoever be the classification or whatsoever be the meaning defined by any scholar, their existence remains always, and despite being the result of primitive human impulses, myths are also embedded in the mentality and belief of this advanced society. Being dynamic, these countries keep changing their forms and time, but as per the need of the country, new myths are also taking place, are created by synthesizing old myths, and thus the development of myth is a continuous process. So, in this way sociology of religion hold a very significant place about rituals, myth and the concept of sacredness in it, and this is the reason that sociology of religion never talk anything about which is not having any base. The strong base which is given to it is in the form not only as a scientific manner, but having a logical background, and which is tried to be explained in this particular video. Thank you.